SMSlaser sent me the next generation XK68 IR, addressing many of the problems that I had with my first gen. The problem is, they won't sell it. Yeah, I'm confused too. This story begins, like many things, from a simple mistake. In this case, it was me buying the first generation XK68 IR. After my horrible experience with the XK68 IR, including the Wondering Zero, I reached out to SMSlaser on Instagram and asked, hey, can I get a warranty claim? They responded with, we watch your YouTube videos, so I guess I'm on the radar. Long story short, they offered to send out the next generation XK68 IR to me, which includes a new mount amongst other things. I happily agreed and waited. Once I got the device, I was going out of town in about 6 days, so I scrambled to the range and recorded a quick demo and was able to have a couple questions ready to ask when I got back. After asking them about 4 questions related to what the name of it is and when they're going to sell it, they told me that, never mind, we're not going to sell it because it's not good enough. No, really, that's basically what they said. And I think that's kind of a shame, really, because this is a huge improvement over the first generation XK68. I'm just not sure why they don't bother selling it if they already designed it. Anyways, I did reach out to them and ask them if they could send me the new Gen 2 device that only has a flashlight so that I could at least show off something that they're selling at the moment, and they left me on red. So I guess they weren't so interested in collaborating with me. And honestly, I'm okay with that decision. It allows me to keep non-bias. Remember, I paid full price for that IR unit. I didn't get this for free. I still wanted to do a video, however, because I think it's an interesting look at the way the XK68 is transforming, what SMSlaser is doing to address the issues that I found as well as other people on YouTube, and seeing what the next steps are for their future. Without further ado, we'll go over the differences between the first generation and prototype second generation of the XK68. I'll also show you a synopsis of the range trip that I did and how the accuracy held up. And finally, we'll go over the IR illumination output now that there's a way to adjust it. A welcome feature. Starting from the top, the new dial is a lot more simplified, getting rid of a lot of the useless features that the first generation XK68 IR had. My favorite feature is PD. PD usually stands for power delivery in electronics, but I think in this case it stands for power disconnect. When this option is selected, the on-off button no longer functions, making the unit a lot easier to be transported to the range without accidentally turning on in my range bag. That was a gripe that I had many times with the first generation XK68 IR. Speaking of the on-off button, it's a lot more recessed into the body, making it harder to accidentally engage it off the side of your rifle. And now that we're on the bottom of the device, we can go over the new mount. It includes new locking lugs for the Picatinny rail, which is great to keep the device in place while you're mounting it. And the whole device now sits a lot lower. Since the old mount was kind of bolted onto the body originally, this is wholly integrated now. And while the illuminator is still not adjustable, you can now adjust the output using this button when you have the illuminator option selected. I would say this is more of a band-aid fix since the output is still very floody, but it at least lowers the brightness whenever you turn the device on, which is very helpful. And on a side note, they also redesigned the tape switch. The body is different, although the buttons are the same, but the biggest change is it actually has an M-lock mount now. I was on the fence about it when I was using it initially, but I grew to actually like this option. It's a welcome change, and I hope more tape switches have this option in the future. Since there's no way that you'll be able to buy this device, I'll show you the highlights of the burndown test at the range trip. Long story short, while this did have a better accuracy than the XK68 IR Gen 1 that I had previously, it's still not on par yet with a Somo gear pack. All right, we're here at the range in the brutal Texas heat on a summer's day at the range, as you can probably hear. Hopefully the mic quality is better this time. I have the XK68's laser somewhat on point with my red dot, as you'll see in the picture that I'm going to put on the screen. I'm going to take some shots at the middle left target with the laser, and hopefully it stays accurate more than 8 rounds like the first gen did. Anything past 8 rounds, we're going to call that a win. But yeah, let's get to it. All right. So the group is okay for 25 yards. Since all 4 shots kind of landed at the same point, I would say that the laser was holding 0 for now. I'm going to take some more shots and I'll report back. So after checking the 0, I think the laser may have moved slightly more. To the naked eye, it hasn't seemed to move that much, but by the camera's angle, it definitely has moved more downwards. I am not going to adjust the 0 for now, and I'll take 4 more shots and see the difference between at shot 0 versus shot 45, and see if there's any noticeable difference. And I need a mag. All right, I definitely had a flyer, so I'm going to take 1 more shot, I believe. All right, so it took 5 shots instead of 4 to do that flyer. Let's go check out the grouping. At round 0 through 4 versus 76 through 81. I definitely had 1 flyer, but the other 4 shots were relatively close together. The shots are very slightly going upwards, which makes sense since the laser is slightly going downwards over time. So I readjusted the laser to be slightly above the red dot in reference to looking through the red dot body. Nonetheless, you get what you pay for. If the laser stops moving after this or moves less, I think we can call that an improvement over the Gen 1 XK68 IR. Let's get started. The laser definitely walked a little bit to the right. As you can see in the picture that I'm going to put up, the laser is now just above the red dot in reference looking through the sight, through the glass. So now we went from the laser walking down to now it's walking to the right. The laser could be breaking in still, but that's now twice in a row where we're already starting to see some change, and we're not talking high round count. We're still below 100 rounds total, 90. While it's true that the 2nd gen is definitely changing a lot less than the 1st gen did, it is changing a lot more than the Somo gear. During my testing with the Somo gear, I probably put 300 rounds through it, and I also banged it across the table while I was testing it, and the change of the laser was so minuscule that the pictures don't even show the change. It was hardly recognizable by the, just by looking through the red dot. The movement is relatively small though. I mean, if we're talking 10 yards, not really a big deal. 25 yards, I mean, I'm still hitting the target, although you're starting to see the change. Now, if you're aiming at something like a rat at 100 yards using night vision, that could be the difference between hitting the rat and not hitting it, especially, with such a small target. In other words, just like the 1st generation XK68, my statement still remains. Know the limits of the device. Keep it a short distance and you'll be fine. So, final 100 round verdict. The new tape switch mount is pretty nice if you want to use M-LOK. The device body is a lot lower, so that's nice when you're looking through your red dot, especially if you have a co-witness sight or a lower 1/3 witness. And lastly, that this laser held its groups together a lot better than the 1st generation XK68 IR, although it did walk.
Later that night.
So here we are in the alley to do some late night testing with the IR illuminators. As you can see, it's about half brightness from the moon. To the naked eye, it's gonna be pretty dark, and I'll post a picture from my camera phone to show that. But of course, with the Sonox Aura, you can see a lot more detail. And more importantly, you're gonna be able to see some IR light. Real quick, I wanted to show the IR output of the XK68 1st gen for a refresher. As you can see, it's incredibly high as well as incredibly floody. It's lighting up this entire alley, which is about 250 meters long. no problem. And not only that, there's a lot of illumination that will bounce back if you hit the walls of the fences and stuff like that, which can cause a problem, especially if you're wearing night vision. So this is the prototype output, at least on the first level. I think it's causing havoc with the Psyonix refresh rate, but if you can see it, the output is a lot lower, which I think is a good thing. Hitting the adjustment button, you can see the different levels, with the top level being about the same brightness as the first generation XK68. I think this is really helpful if you know, you do have to do something close quarters. While the illuminator is still floody, at least the output's a lot lower, so hopefully it will cause less issues with your night vision. And lastly, I wanted to show the Somo Gears output. This is definitely my favorite in this price range of you know, about 200 bucks or less. As you can see, it's very bright, but also very manageable, right? If it goes up against a wall, it's not bouncing back, and it's staying basically where you want it to be focused on. This is also on the low output, right? So even on the low output, the end of the alleyway can still be illuminated, you know, if you're aiming at it with your rifle. And this is the most condensed setting. Here, I'll try to adjust it one-handed. So with the Somo Gears focus all the way out, you can now basically illuminate the end of the alleyway no problem and still hit everything by you with no issues, right? You know, there's a little bit of splashback going on the ground right there, but it's nothing compared to the XK68s. And by the way, this is the low output. Let's see if we can get to the high. This is the high output, and yeah, you're definitely going to be able to illuminate anything you would need to.
Better and an improvement. Those are two words that I would describe this device. It shows that SMSlaser is actually trying and making the XK68 a better product. Although I think price is a very high priority to keep. At $120, this makes a lot of sense. But if this was to go back on sale for that $170 price that the original XK68 IR was at, there's a competitor just above that price that's a lot better in my opinion. The IR adjustability, the brightness of the lasers, this is in another class for not much more money. And I think SMSlaser needs to keep this in their sights. The fact that SMSlaser decided to mothball this shows that they're probably working on something newer and much better. It's just, no one knows when it's going to come out, right?
And I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
While SMSlaser was talking to me about their future plans, I did mention their RovyVon GLV4, or whatever you want to call it. They said that it was an interesting device and they were asking some questions about it, but I want to make it clear to SMSlaser, do not try to shoot for that price. I know all about that RovyVon. It's on my radar and I'll be coming after it very soon. Until then, Godspeed.